South Africa is struggling to create jobs. Well, the big question is, can this budget solve that problem? Let's talk to economist now, Dr. Azar Jammine. A very good morning to you, Doc. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, many people say that it takes money to make money. How big a focus do you think job creation will be in this particular budget speech?
Clearly, job creation is the biggest challenge that the economy faces, because with job creation comes a reduction in unemployment and a reduction in inequality and poverty. So yes, job creation will take center stage, but what isn't clear is just how it's going to create center stage. There's direct job creation and indirect job creation. Direct job creation through a thing like the youth wage subsidy has already been proposed by the government and was already supposed to have been introduced from last year's budget, but it's been opposed by COSATU. And you might now get dilly-dallying around some other kind of schemes to create jobs directly. But it's the indirect job creation that I believe could be the most successful and beneficial, and that is by educating people properly to be able to become more employable, and by loosening up the tensions that exist in the industrial relations environment to encourage businesses to want to take on workers more readily. At the moment, they're scared to take on business because of all the hassle factor. And thirdly, we need to try and promote small business activity and deregulate in order to encourage people not only to look for jobs with big corporations, but either to look for them in small companies or to create those jobs themselves.
Now, this is where government is heavily criticized when it comes to creating jobs as far as entrepreneurship is concerned. And this is where often people say Nigeria beats South Africa because they're very industrialized in their way of thinking. As opposed to looking for a job, they're always thinking about creating jobs. Do you think the government has done enough to stimulate entrepreneurs?
I do not believe the government has done enough. On the contrary, government has been hamstrung by the masses of the unemployed who've called for government to intervene more and more against business. And that goes directly against the whole objective of promoting entrepreneurship, because life for a small business is quite tough out there, having to deal with all sorts of rules and regulations that they don't have the manpower to actually deal with it. You eventually get your managing director or the founder of the company having to deal with these things, and he hasn't got then enough time to concentrate on the main job of creating activity for his company.
And then, Doc, there's always that question, the political hot potato of jobs versus decent jobs. How do you think that will play out? Because especially with the labor unrest that we've seen in the farming industry, in mining industry, where people are striking for more jobs and are losing jobs because of the higher wages. How do you think that dichotomy will play out?
Well, it's a very unfortunate aspect about our labor environment, and that is that we are not going to make the required progress with job creation if people continuously differentiate between decent jobs and jobs. In other countries of the world where unemployment is much lower, that differentiation is far looser. One has sympathy with people wanting to uplift themselves, but frankly, the way to do it is not to go for a decent job, and because business cannot afford it.
Just quickly, in closing, want to take a look at those who do have jobs and how that plays out. The demands on government's purse are ever increasing. One of those major demands is the rising public sector wage bill. It's gone up by 8.3% a year over the past 4 years. And I want to know from you if you think that's sustainable.
Well, can I make one? It's 8.3% per year plus inflation. So it was more like 14.3% per year. That is not sustainable, and that's what the rating agencies are going to watch. The government, in the medium-term budget policy statement, committed itself to reducing that to just 1.3% above inflation for the next 3 years. But is it going to manage to do that? Because, in fact, the government has been the only source of major job creation over the last few years. And in a sense, it's going to have to stop doing that directly if it wants to prevent the public sector wage bill from rising the way it's done.
It's a bit of a catch-22.
Very much so.
Thank you so much for your time. That was economist Dr. Azar Jammine.